Well, hey there everybody, it's Snackbox coming to you from just an absolutely phenomenally gorgeous day here in Atlanta, Georgia. The sun is out, the birds are singing, the leaves have arrived. We are here soundly and squarely in spring. I'm so super excited to be here talking to you today about segment 19 of the Colorado Trail. This is the second half of the cruise. Get excited about it. We've got a lot of good stuff coming our way. This is a phenomenal segment. I'm excited to talk to you about it. Hang tight because we have got a lot to cover and not a lot of time. Let's get to it. Do you think that geese have big duck energy? Sorry. So segment 19 goes from the Sawash Park Road to the Eddysville trailhead. This is a segment that goes about 13.7 miles, goes up in elevation just about 2,300 feet, and down in elevation about 1,400 feet. This segment is a really interesting segment because it sort of couples with that previous segment where, as we talked about in the last episode, this one is a really great segment for making a lot of good miles. There's not a lot of elevation gain, and when there is a lot of elevation gain, it tends to be pretty gradual. There is a stretch at the very start where you sort of hop over a couple of different sort of gulches and gullies, and those can have some pretty steep climbs, but those tend to be relatively short. One thing that makes this segment really tricky is that at some point between this segment and the last segment, you're going to have to hike during the daytime, during the heat of the sun, most likely. This is unless you have time to slow up, or maybe you can break up those sort of segments in some way. But for most hikers out there, you're going to spend some time hiking in the sunshine, and these are both very exposed segments in segment 18 and segment 19. So that presents our first big challenge here. The first tip that I have for you heading through here is to try to wake up super early to get through this segment as much as possible, because most of the sun exposure you're going to see in this segment, it's going to happen very early in the section. Roughly the first 5 or 6 miles or so, you're going to be walking on what amounts to sort of a jeep road or a farm road. And so these are really great because you're not going to have a lot of opportunity to sort of roll your ankle or trip or fall, but it's also really challenging because these segments tend to be very exposed. If you think about sort of the philosophy of building a farm road, you don't want to have to cut down a lot of trees if you don't have to. So when they had the opportunity to build the farm road either around the forest or through the forest, they're going to go around the forest, which means you are going to be going around the forest and all that beautiful shade like I'm seeing right now. So be aware of that. You may just need to carry an umbrella. You may need to break it up a little bit, but I did this segment 2 different times, and one time I did it during the heat of the day, and a number of people got very sick because it was so hot and so exposed. I did it another time first thing in the morning because I camped at the end of that segment 18, and then I woke up and did it early in the morning, and this was really phenomenal. So at the end of this segment, I got to the top of this sort of rise, and I waited on my buddy Tom the train. I hope you're out there, Tom, watching. Tom is a good buddy of mine that I met on the hike last year, and I waited for him at the top of the rise about 5.5 miles in. And this is a really great spot if you can camp there. That's a really dynamite place to camp. You'll see it on the data book. You'll see where it sort of meets a forest road. About 5.5 miles in, it meets a forest road, and that's also at the top of this climb. And so if you can dry camp there, that's a really phenomenal place to dry camp. There are a couple of really good campsites, and if you do the climbing at the end of your day, you stop at the top of that rise, then the next morning it's a really smooth downhill down into the Cochitopa Creek basin. It's a really great way to go if you're looking for a good campsite. Which brings me actually to my second tip for this segment, is that about 7 miles in, you're going to get to the area of the Cochitopa Creek. This is a beautiful stretch of the trail, like truly phenomenally beautiful stretch of the trail, where you're going to walk in this valley, and the Cochitopa Creek, it's going to sort of slither through the bottom of that basin initially, and then it's going to straighten out and get kind of wide, and you're going to be hiking on the sort of the edges of this ridgeline that kind of brackets the river on both sides. This is important to know for 2 different reasons. One is that it's really easy to get water through this segment. That's part of the reason you can build up some big miles through here. And then 2, there's not a lot of really great camping, and especially not down by the river. First of all, you don't really want to camp by a river because leave no trace principles indicate that you should be camping away from a water source, if not more when possible. But secondly, these are areas where, because it's in that valley and flanked on both sides by a ridgeline, that if you do camp there, you're likely to have a lot of condensation and moisture in your tent at the beginning of the morning. So these are spots where a lot of that humidity gathers. So as you're hiking through this segment, be looking for those places where the trail kind of gets up onto the side and maybe has a flat spot somewhere kind of tucked away where you can grab some water and kind of pseudo dry camp where you're maybe only a half a mile away from water, and that way you can kind of take some water up the hill. Camp in some of the aspen groves are really beautiful through there, would make phenomenal campsites. So be paying really close attention that if you decide you want to camp in that Cochitopa Creek basin, that you're finding a good campsite, but you're not not camping next to the river for a million different reasons. Camp right on the river is not a great idea through here. The last reason you don't really want to camp there in that basin is that this is an area that channels in that sort of, the river is in the middle of this sort of channel, which is a natural sort of guide for clouds that are low hanging coming through. So if there is a storm coming through, you're going to catch all of the brunt of that rain. And not only that, if the water raises at all, you're going to be in sort of a really tough spot from there. So just don't camp right next to the river. If you're going to camp in that stretch that goes basically from mile 7 all the way to the end of the segment, then that's a really good opportunity to sort of camel up or at least grab some water and camp on the side. And then know that first thing in the morning, you can head back down and grab some more water. It's very easy. You're not going to want for water for the next little bit. In fact, a lot of the next segments, you're going to have a really pretty easy go of getting water, which is good news because we just left 2 segments where water was a little more scarce. My next tip for this segment has everything to do with the Cochitopa Creek. When you look at your data book or you look at your map, there's one spot where you're going to dip down and you're going to have to cross that river. So you're going to stay sort of on the southern side of the river, and then at one point you're going to have to cross over, get to the other side, and then climb up, and you're going to hit this sort of really steep point for maybe 10 or 15 feet and get back on the trail, and then make your way going on the north side of the creek. This is a segment where the best thing you can do is to just approach the creek as if you're going to have to wade across it and find the low spot to wade across it. Every year I've been out there a number of times, there have been people who have tried to figure out ways to build little bridges going across or knock down some logs, do any of those, and those are often much worse than just taking off your shoes and wading across using your trekking poles for stability and safety. Be very safe when you go across this river. If it's up too high, it's always better to turn around. But ultimately what you want to do is just don't get cute crossing that river. Go straight across it. If you try to go across logs that have been wet, the logs could collapse. If the logs are wet, you also can end up slipping really easily. You can sprain an ankle. Those aren't really great. So here, just don't get cute. Go across the river, find a good spot to do it. Watch for mud at different points too, because the cows come through here pretty often and they'll soften up that mud. You don't want to end up knee deep in some muck, but ultimately the idea here is find a good safe spot to wade across the river. That's the best way to go. Don't get fancy. Don't try to keep yourself dry. Go do it the sort of the straightforward route, and you're going to be a lot better off. And then finally, this is sort of the final tip 0.0. And here, know that at the end of this segment, when you leave the La Garita wilderness area, you're going to go into the wilderness area for just a short stretch, then you're going to leave and you're going to show up at the Eddysville trailhead, and that's a really great spot. Is it okay if I take a quick video of your dog? Beautiful. This is a good dog alert here. What's his name? Bindu. Bindu. Make sure.
He's a little skittish right now. So
is he?
Playing a drum set, so he's.
Oh yeah, my girls get the same. I've got 2 Newfoundlands, so I love the giant breeds. Bindu, what a beautiful dog. Did he just get groomed?
3 weeks since he was last groomed.
Yeah, Pyrenees though, right?
Oh yeah, Pyrenees.
Yeah, they're dynamite dog. It's a beautiful Great Pyrenees, which coincidentally enough, we're going to be talking about Great Pyrenees soon, coming up on that Snow Mesa, which is just a couple of segments away. But ultimately here, the sort of final tip-ish that I have for you is know that there's a bathroom and there are a couple of sort of makeshift campsites at the Eddysville trailhead where this segment finishes. Those bathrooms are typically in pretty good shape, and there's also a really good water source right there by the campground or the campsites that are sort of by the parking lot at the end there. So there is a bathroom there at the Eddysville trailhead. They tend to be in pretty good shape. There's a parking lot there. You're going to see a lot of day hikers there. It's a really common place for people who want to climb San Luis Peak to come out there and camp for the night and then make their way through the segment to go climb that peak the next morning. And so know that there are a couple of campsites there that could be pretty decent. I've camped there before. It's totally fine. There typically are some day hikers there, which are great to make friends with, especially because they tend to have beer and other snacks and different foods that are too heavy for you to carry. It's also a great place to kind of meet up with friends if you're looking for a place to join. But that bathroom area is always a really good spot, and camping there is not a terrible idea because you can make your way from there up to the next saddle the next morning pretty quickly and pretty efficiently as well. And you're heading into some really incredibly beautiful segments of the trail. I'm super excited for you. I'm super excited for you. Get amped about it. Things are just going to get better from here. I mean, really and truly, truth is from here, everything is going to be incredible, unique, really beautiful. Not that other segments weren't. Well, that covers it here for our talk about segment 19 of the Colorado Trail. I hope you found this useful. If you did find it useful, please join the community, click that subscribe button, click the like button so that YouTube lets everybody else know that this is something useful to them as well. In the comments below, what I'm hoping that you'll tell me is whether or not you plan to climb San Luis Peak or San Luis Peak or however you pronounce it. If you're Gregory Ellen Isaacoff, you would say San Luis, I think. Let me know if you're planning on climbing that 14er. It's known by many to be one of the more accessible 14ers along the Colorado Trail because it's just a couple of miles up and down round trip. You can actually hear people from the summit from the Colorado Trail, so that's kind of cool. Let me know if you're planning on climbing that in the comments below. Also, if you haven't gotten an outside comfort zone sticker yet, send me a message on Instagram at Backcountry Champion. I will put one in the mail to you. They're totally free. You don't even have to follow me on Instagram. All I ask is that you let me know where to send it so that I can get one out to you. It's my way of saying thank you for being part of this community, genuinely making some great friends already. I can already tell there's some people in the crowd there that will be lifetime friends of mine, so I'm really enthusiastic about this sort of the little village we're creating here. So I hope to get to meet you all out on the Colorado Trail. I think that about covers it, and these birds are letting me know it's time for me to get out of here. So hang in there, everybody. I hope it's beautiful like this wherever you are, and I will see you soon when we are talking about segment 20 of the Colorado Trail, which sets you up for a gnarly climb. Can't wait to talk to you about it. I'll see you all soon. Have a great day. This Snack Box out.